Good morning from Puerto Viejo. This is Playa Negra. It is a beautiful morning. I figured I'd come down here and finally film this video because I've been avoiding it. Today I'm going to talk about the emotional aspects of healing. In my previous videos, I addressed physical and environmental things to look out for, what you can do to address them. And now I want to do the same thing with emotions. This area right here has been very evasive for me just because of how I grew up. We were taught to shut down emotions. You know, there would be horrible consequences for expressing emotions, especially negative ones. Like the positive ones were like, okay, but the negative ones, like hell no, ass whooping, punishment. So very early on, I learned to suppress these and ignore them because that was a coping mechanism or a way of life that I figured out that worked best for me then, but in my adult life it hasn't, and so it's kind of getting in the way. It was causing me some issues, so I wanted to talk about it more in depth. I keep having to like start this video and stop it, and I'm sick of it, so y'all getting a foggy video. So the core principle behind this video is that emotions are not random. They are there for a reason. They are your emotional guidance system. They're trying to tell you something. And you know, you can shove them down like I did and not listen, or you can take a moment and reflect and see what your emotions are trying to tell you. Emotions are also energy. They are energy, and you know, it could be perceived as good or bad, right? Energy that is supporting what you're trying to do, or energy that is limiting what you're trying to do. And so sometimes, like too, when I was suppressing those emotions, I was suppressing this energy. It was being stored within different areas of my body, and it started to cause issues because usually the ones that I was suppressing were not necessarily good emotions. So I was storing, you know, like anger and grief and guilt, and oh my gosh, it's getting foggier and foggier. Okay, hold on. Let me try to find a non-fogged area. You can't see shit. Like I can't even wipe that off. It is inside the lens. So I'm basically I like got in the car, turned on the AC, and I'm just gonna see what happens. I think we defogged enough, or pretty much all the way. That was crazy. I don't even know where the hell I left off, but I'm just like, or what I was saying, but I'm just gonna, because it's been like a few minutes or more. But I guess to try to wrap up whatever I was saying, your emotions either support you or they limit you, you know? So your emotions being your guidance system. I feel like Esther Hicks, Abraham their book, I forget what it's called. It's like Emotions something. I'll probably just like pop it up right here. But that book is, I think, a great starter for understanding how emotions are your guidance system. That's basically what the whole book is about. Like, it's like an intro to your guidance system, which I very much needed. I didn't realize how much I was avoiding my emotions and not listening to them. And now that I'm like, oh, I feel bad, like, let me take a second to see like what's going on. It's a lot easier to just navigate life. So essentially what this book teaches is that when you have elevated emotions like joy, gratefulness, compassion, and you know, all that good stuff, that is a good indication that you are living the way that you want, right? Like you're doing what you want. You're in alignment with your higher self. And when you're feeling the opposite of elevated emotions, like I'm going to call them hell emotions, when you're feeling like guilt, fear, anger, those type of emotions, they are really good indications of that you're not aligned. You're misaligned. You're not aligned with your higher self. You're not doing what you want. You're essentially going in the wrong direction. That's how I like to see it. It's like I use it as a compass. Like when I don't know what to do or what I really want to do, it's like, okay, well, do I feel good or do I feel bad about what I'm currently doing, the path that I'm going down? And based off that, I start to reevaluate. However, like I was mentioning before, we are conditioned to ignore. Like, I don't know anybody who wants to go to work, right? I feel like everybody who's going to work, they do not feel good about it. Not everybody, because some people love their jobs. There's a rare few, right? But I feel like a good majority of people who go to their job every morning, they get up and like as soon as their alarm wakes them up, as soon as they open their eyes, the first thing is like dread of going to work, right? And this is something that we're conditioned to do from school, getting up and going to school, then going to college, then going to work. So society has conditioned us to ignore these hell emotions uh, in order to stay on the rat wheel, stay in the rat race, and not expect any further. Is this really what I want to do? Because when we see everybody miserable with their job, and you're like, that's just normal. That's just how it is. That's what you hear. Like, just get with it. It's not like anything's gonna change. Like I heard so much of that, or that's not how we do things around here. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, fuck off. I'm changing things, but sometimes we don't, and we just sit there in our miserable emotions and keep going day in and day out. So that is something that I was doing, and those negative emotions were draining the life out of me. I didn't even know emotions could have a physical effect, actually. Like I just wasn't even aware until I read like Medical Medium's book, and he was talking about how the negative emotions could. But back when I started reading that book, I was very like anti spiritual stuff because of all the Christianity trauma that I had growing up. So I was like, I don't want to know woo woo shit. But now, I'm several years into what I call my spiritual journey. And I just know better now. I know emotions have a big effect on the physical body. And if emotions are not dealt with, they can manifest as symptoms and conditions that could present as something like ADHD, right? So this is just a PSA, like pay attention to your emotions. They are your compass for figuring out what you do like or don't like, you do want or don't want. Just to give a few examples too, I have learned and read and through experience, found out that when people experience like grief, oftentimes that unhandled grief will manifest as a chronic illness. A lot of people get their chronic illnesses as they lose like a significant other or a loved one, like a daughter or brother or sister or something, a mom, a dad. And illness will present that way because those emotions really take a toll. And, we're not really taught on how to properly handle grief. I think how society teaches us, the consensus is to just like shove it down and keep moving, or you either fall apart from it because you don't shove it down. You can't, like, you can't figure that out. So you just kind of fall apart. And then I think I talked about work earlier, like the stress from working, like day in and day out, like deadlines and having to get to work on time and like super crazy workloads and not enough recovery time. So people get burnt out physically. Like they're like, I can't do anymore. And you see these people doing these high paying, like 6-figure jobs and then they quit and take off for like years. And honestly, like that's what I'm doing. I was making a 6-figure job and I had a 6-figure job and, I was doing that job for 5 years. I wasn't making six figures for 5 years, but towards the end I was, and the last few years. And then I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. I was burnt the fuck out. I was like, I can't even do this. And you know what? I didn't even have like a high workload. I just was burnt out from doing something I didn't want to do on a daily basis. It didn't matter that I had like automated and found systems to be super efficient in my work. So I got most of my work done within 2-3 hours of the day. But that just like, it still wasn't enough. I thought if I was efficient and had less work and whatever, that it would be enough, but it just wasn't. And then alternatively, like something that's really big going on, anxiety. So many people have anxiety, and they experience this as like tight chest or like panic attacks, you know, like maybe they start to get dizzy, start to hear ringing in their ears. Basically, sorry. What I'm saying is if you don't address your emotions, they do start to show up as physical ailments, symptoms, and can go so far as chronic illnesses. Or even like something like cancer, bro. Like that ain't off limits. Cancer is just a dis-ease in the body that is left unchecked for so long that it basically becomes like a fucking final boss in your body. So if you're not already doing so, you want to make sure, again, I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, that you're confronting these emotions. Like you're observing them and understanding where they're coming from. And then not only that, because like, you know, you can understand that your anxiety is coming from work, but if you don't do anything about it, obviously the emotion is still going to continue to be stored, going to create issues physically. So then you have to, you know, you have to do something about it. You have to determine like, hey, is work worth it? Like, am I going to continue to emotionally frustrate myself and like imprison myself for a check? You know, and maybe you don't have the ability to quit right now. Maybe you'll lose your home or house, or you got kids or something like that. But these are just things to think about and start considering and think and trying to figure out, you know, a new path. And something I still struggle with, being aware of those emotions, because again, we tend to shove them down and ignore them. So really getting used to observing your emotions, observing how you are reacting, and any patterns or triggers that are occurring. Usually you'll find that they either lead you to a cause, right? Like it could be super simple cause and effect, like job equals stress, or it could lead you to some uh, deeper, more in the past traumas or PTSD. And, you know, I don't know, I've got to say this because I didn't know this at first, but PTSD is just any difficult situation that you have experienced. You do not have to have some big sexual assault thing happen. You don't have to go to war and see people die. Like, you could just have your car break down in the middle of nowhere and you don't know what you're going to do and you're freaking out. And that could create trauma. That could create PTSD. So lose the belief that it has to be something extreme, because it really don't. It just has to be difficult to you. And obviously that's very, I think that's subjective. I get the two words mixed up but it's based on person to person. So what one may find difficult, another may not. So don't compare your situations or your traumas or PTSDs to anyone else, because we are all different. How we experience the world is different. How we react to it is different. So if you compare, you're really going to put yourself, you're just going to cause yourself a lot of stress, bruh. So yeah, what can you do so these emotions stop manifesting as physical ailments, or so you can use them as guidance? Again, observing your emotions, observing your reactions, and truly taking the time to understand what's going on. What are you reacting to? And you know, it may be like, let me try to find the situation, because it's not always surface level. Like, I know, I'll use me as an example. I know for me, I would get very upset if I had to share with people. Like on the surface, it just looks like, oh, I don't like to share. I don't know how to share. I need to learn how to share. But no, on a more deep level, it came from my needs being put second a lot of the times growing up because my sister struggled so much. I wouldn't even say she struggled more, but it was more visible, her struggle, like mentally and physically. And so she received more attention than I, and oftentimes, like what I wanted was second. It was an afterthought, or it was like, you're okay, right? And it's like, I wasn't, but like, it didn't really matter, at least in that moment. That's how it felt to me as a child. It didn't really matter what I felt because my sister's, whatever was going on was bigger, or it was perceived as bigger than what I was going through. And so when I had something to myself that was mine, and I labeled it in my head as mine, and somebody came and tried to take some or use it or whatever, because sometimes it could be food or it could be like things, and I'm like, no, this is mine. I never got to really have anything because when I was growing up, I was like, oh, she's independent, she's good, she's by herself, she don't need no help, or she can share with her sister, take her sister, or can your sister have this? And it's just like, I don't know. So as an adult, I thought I just didn't know how to share, but really it started when I was younger and just not receiving attention. So make sure that you're really diving deep enough into that emotion and where it's really stemming from. Don't just stop at like the level of form, go into like the content, like the emotions of the situation, and see what's really going on. And basically mine was like, I just want something for me that I don't have to share, saying like, I come first, my needs matter just as much as anyone else. That's really what I wanted. But on the surface level, it just looked like she don't like to share chips or something like that. Okay. I think I've explained this enough. In the next video, I'm going to discuss thoughts, because your emotions stem from thoughts. Emotions are just thoughts with a lot of energy, right? And so if you want to maybe not eliminate, but or like more easily address these emotions and understand what's happening, we're going to look at the level of thought a little bit more closely, because if you do not change your thoughts, then the patterns, the emotions can continue to arise and cause issues. So if you're interested in learning more about that bucket of healing, make sure to check out the next video in the series. Much love and happy healing.